A nonprofit that advocates for child welfare and protection to reduce child abuse and homicides in Maine is calling on the legislature's Government Oversight Committee to reject a recent report concerning the death of a child in Milo. Walk a Mile in Their Shoes says the report from the Office of Program Evaluation and Government Accountability, or OPEGA, did not take into account the role domestic violence played in the death of Silas Melvin. The 1-month-old was killed by his father. While the report says Office of Child and Family Services caseworkers were thorough in their efforts, Walk a Mile says prior reported domestic abuse was not seen as the red flag it should have been.
I think there's two issues. One is the report does not bring to the highest level domestic violence in families, and they need to change that. And if this report isn't changed, then it's going to go on for the next case that's reviewed. And again, that domestic violence is really not recognized as being serious when it's very serious.
Diamond says Walk a Mile hopes the committee will send the report back to be rewritten, this time with a highlighted emphasis on the prior domestic abuse. If the report is accepted as is, Diamond says the group will speak up even louder to raise awareness of domestic abuse.